Hi people, it's Finished Tech Repairs Jimmy here. Just an update of what I've actually bought recently. I bought a box of controllers, and what included is I've got 3 or 4 of these Nintendo NES light gun controllers, or light guns I should call them. These were actually listed as non-working, so I got them quite a good deal. I can't remember the exact price of each item, but it was probably under about £7 each, or £5. It wasn't a lot for the amount I've got. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you a quick look into the inside of one of these guns. It's very simple. All you need is a medium-sized crosshead screwdriver. I've got 2 slightly different sizes. It's just what I come up with. And a smaller one, because there are 2 different size screws in here. There are 2 smaller ones at the front, which I removed, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the main side out case. So what I can do is remove this grey piece of plastic for the front and the side, and it does actually leave another screw here, which is the same size as the other, so I remove that. And what that enables me to do is take the case off. And what that does is that's left me, I believe, what this would be called a balance weight, just to give it a bit more weight, so it doesn't feel completely cheap. It's easier to use. So there's no point in me removing that. It's not dirty at all. So what I can do is just pop that over there for now, out of the way. What I've got here, right at the front, is the lens, which the actual laser or the infrared beam will go through. And that's a little bit dirty, so that's just easy enough to remove. So I can clean that. Right, there is another counterbalance in the actual handle itself. It's just a piece of anodized metal, so that's fine. I can just pop that over there. And there is a little bit grubby inside, so what I'll do is strip the rest down. I can clean that, that's not a problem. Right, it's just a quick inspection over the actual light gun itself. It does look like somebody has tried to repair it themselves. You can actually see, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but just at the top here, get a little bit closer in, there is a little bit of soldering pen damage that I can see, and it does look like for whatever reason they have tried to repair it. It does look like they put it back together, they've cleaned it out, which is great, not a problem. Looks like they've trapped a wire, so what they've done is they've cut out the damaged section of wire and they've replaced it with what looks like a paper clip. Yes, right there. I'm going to pause on that. Why would you use a paper? That just makes no sense to me. It's a very thin piece of wire. I wouldn't say it carries a lot of current, to be fair, and to be honest, that actually just looks like an earth on this switch. Well, it actually says communication on there, but it doesn't matter. It's a very low powered circuit, to be fair. You know, anything like a Cat5 cable, network cable, you can cut up. You can use that if you don't have any proper cable. But myself, I do actually have some good old, fantastic kind of wire. Very cheap to buy off eBay or eBid or my site or wherever you want to buy it from, but it is cheap. You get quite a lot and it's very good stuff. All I'd need to do is chop out the piece of wire that's on there and just solder it back in. Yet people still insist on trying to bodge it. I mean, I've seen some really bad bodges, not the worst one I've seen, but it's just beyond beggars belief. You'd use a paper clip to complete a circuit, but it's not completing the circuit, and hence why they've sold it spare. So this is what I'm going to do. Right, okay, what I'm going to do at the moment is I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to clean it up, and I'll show you how it should be done properly. Alright people, second part of this video series I'm doing on the controllers. In this case it will be the light gun. Right, okay, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to strip it down, clean up the parts, and then I'm going to do the soldering. So what I'll need to do is take the trigger mechanism out of the light gun itself. Okay, like I said, there's 2 different sizes, so I've used the bigger of the 2. Wow, it's just surprising how dirty these devices can get. Although from what I can see the screws do look all the same size. I try to keep them separate so I know exactly where they go. Right, on this device there's only three big screws. Right, the trigger mechanism comes out. I'll just gently take out the wiring, the handle itself. I can pop that over there, so what I'm going to do is give that a good clean. Right, trigger mechanism itself. In this case, it doesn't look particularly dirty. The contacts look fine. And I just want to get a close-up of what they've done. See, I've used the paper clip off this wire here. And what I'm going to have to do is cut that off completely and resolder it a decent piece of wire. I'm going to use Kynol for this. So what I'm going to use to clean it, I've got a few cotton buds, very cheap, very cheerful, but it does the job. In this case I'm using an egg cup. Yeah, it's a Thomas the Tank, in case anyone asks. It was easy from Superdrug, very cheap. And what I've got here is I'm just using some alcohol. I think it's 99%. Relatively cheap for what I bought off eBay. Just soak the head. I'm just going to clean the actual trigger mechanism itself. It's a little bit gummed up. One side actually wet it, get most of the dirt off, and then the other side to dry it off and get the remaining crap off the actual switch itself, the trigger. There will be wear marks, but there's not much you can do about that. And you could polish it, but I'm not going to go that extreme. I'll just be very careful. I'd advise using this in a well ventilated area, because it does sting quite a lot. The mechanism itself seems perfectly fine to me. So what I'll do is I'm just going to pause the video and I will clean out the gun's casing itself. Hi people, back again. I have actually cleaned the gun itself. It's looking pretty damn sweet now. You'll be able to see that, but I'll put that over here. Out of the way. Right, okay. Next problem. Bit of the bodge where they've done. You can see this okay. Paper clip. Actually going to remove this, and the actual wire is connected to off this board just here. So bear with me. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Always remember to use a flex pen. A good quality flex pen certainly helps. As long as a flux pen works, of course. A little bit of flux. Zoom it out a little bit so you can see it overall. Right, okay, well what I'm going to do now is desolder that wire itself. Okay. Good quality solder pen. In this case I'm using an Antex. It's a 25 watt for what I'm doing. You don't need anything bigger than that. You can get away with 15, but I find this heats up a lot quicker. It just makes jobs a lot easier to deal with. As long as you're quick, it'll be perfectly fine. Right. So that has now just come away from the actual board itself. Right, I'm now going to unhook the paper clip. That was it. That was the bodge. That's what I do with that. I'll just chuck that. Right, so what I've got now, so I've got some good old Kynol wire. Also keep it a thing, keep it black, and cut off a section. Just of course make sure you measure it, it's long enough. A little bit extra should be perfectly fine, so you can always shorten it later. Right. Like so. I would recommend you get yourself a decent set of wire cutter strippers. These are about £15 I think, but they do the job. They're very quick, not like the other crappy ones I have actually bought before, and they've lasted twice, and yeah, horrible story. Right, anyway, let's get on with this. Out of interest, I'm using 30 gauge. These are all the same wiring kits that I would use for any sort of like mod chip installs, like PS1s, PS2s, Xbox 360s, even some DS repairs. I've actually used this one. It's very good, so I highly recommend getting some of that. Right, now what I'm going to do, if I can find my solder, so I'm just going to tin the ends just to make it easier on the install. I'm actually using leaded solder just because I find it easier to work with. Unleaded solder, I haven't got any time for that. It's just awful stuff, and just be very careful not breathe the fumes in. Just to lightly tin the end. Right, now what I need to do, I'm just going to heat up the board where the old solder is. Just tin that point with some new solder, and you poke it in from one side and heat up solder, and voila. Cool. Do apologise, it's very dark in here, even with this light for the camera, it's still quite difficult. Really should be using my helpful hands, but they'll just get in the way. Right, okay, well, that's soldered through the board and that's made a good connection. Make sure it's not bridging any other parts. That's fine. And what I need to do is I'm just going to tin the end of where I'm actually going to solder it to, which is this connector here. I'll just clean this point up. Get rid of all the old wire that was attached to it. I'm going to tin that up. If it'll stand, maybe it won't. Going to tin this up with some new leaded solder. Only need a little bit, but just be on the safe side. All you need to do is heat up the solder, dab in the wire, and then let it sit. Would help if the actual wire was flat itself. Make sure it's completely covered. A few seconds and it will set. Perfect. I do believe it needs a little bit more. It looks a little bit dry. Just be careful with your fingers not to burn yourself. That looks better. Yep. Probably a little bit overkill on the solder, I don't know if you can see that, but hey, there you go. Right, that's the issue solved. So what I'm going to do now is put the gun back together. Now the actual gun itself. Casing, I actually did clean this out, and what I generally do is a little bit of warm water and wait for it. Washing powder, believe it or not. It's not too abrasive, but it does get things cleaned very, very well. Gets all grease, dirt, everything off. Is absolutely brilliant. just make sure you thoroughly dry and get all the residue off if there's any left. I mean, if you're careful, it does come up very, very nice. Right, this is where you put the item back in. Like I said, just make sure it's all dry before you put it back in, otherwise it's going to last about 5 seconds when you plug it into your console, so please make sure you do that. Right, put the gun back together, just make sure the wiring goes back exactly where it come from before, so please bear with me. And as I thought, the other one snapped off. That's what you get with cheap mask jobs like this. There's always a bodge that you have to fix before you can fix the original issue. Right, well, to be fair, that wire does look a bit manky. So what I'm going to do is replace it with some new stuff. So get a decent length of wire off. That's plenty, and just to do exactly what I did for the black wire. It's not going to let me strip it. It's always the way. Right, well, that one's done. Solid number 2 is done. Right, once again, I'm going to tin the end just to make the job a little bit easier. Oh, leaded solder's wicked, so just please be very careful. Right, so let's follow this down. It's already got some flux on it when I previously done it for the black one. Now just take red wire out. Right. Easy. Yep. That's naff. So that'll go. And just insert the new one and re-solder up the gap. Just make sure the wire's poking all the way through so there's nothing that can short on the other side. Right, so that's that one. Right, what I'm going to do is re-tin this just to make sure there's a very good connection. I'm sorry if you can't see this, it's proven to be very difficult for it to actually be a nice shot. Right, okay, let's try this again on this one. Apply a little bit of heat to the solder, insert the wire and let it set for a few seconds. Issue resolved. Right, yeah, it doesn't look too bad to me. Good. Right, take 2, we'll put it in the case again. Again, just make sure you don't trap any wires and put them back as close to the original position as possible. Should be easy enough to do. Just take your time, there's no rush. Very close to the original. Counterbalance goes back in the handle. that's all tucked safely back in. You just need the board to sit where it should. Aha! Perfect. Right, and all you need to do is just tuck in the 2 wires. Just make sure they're not catching on anything. It should be fine. Right, put the other side of the casing on. And don't forget the lens itself, otherwise it would be pretty useless. Right, the gun is back together. Right, and to hold it in place, there is one for this case at this point. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Right at the top. Once again, give the gun inspection just to make sure trigger still works, everything's where it should be, and then you can continue reconstructing the light gun. So a piece. Piece. Right. Just going to pause it there for 1 second. Right, okay. I've gone back 1 step. I just wanted to make sure everything is what it was. Lucky I did, because I didn't put the screws back in for the actual trigger mechanism. Now, silly of me, but hey, it happens, but it's always best to double check these things. So what I'm going to do is put the screws back in. And this one's being a right pain. All the screws appear to be exactly where they should be. Everything's lined up. So I can put the casing back on, which is great. This one holds the casing together. Right, these side pieces click together. And now it's just left to put the main casing screws back on. Right. Should be very straightforward from here on in. If you've got any problems, you can't see what I'm doing, please let me know and I'll remake this if needed. So I've got a few more that I need to do. Oh. Right. Just do them hand tight, don't need to be excessively tight. So you don't want to crack the plastic casing after you've just done all this repair work on this particular light gun. Has happened in the past, but then again, it's 20 odd years old at least. So, right. This is where I change over to the other 2 screws, and this is to hold the lens in.
James?
Yeah, not a problem. It's alright. Thank you. Right, sorry about that. Phone calls left, right and centre. It's very difficult to keep track of everything. Right, the last 2 mini screws. This is to hold the lens, so it can refract the light, so you end up with a good light. Well, there it is. It's as simple as that. You got any questions or inquiries about this gun, or any sort of thing, or if you want me to sort of produce a video for any particular problems you might have, then just follow a link underneath this video, or just send me an email. No problems. It's Vintage Tech Repairs. Jimmy signing out.